Call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, and also streaming live. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, statement is hereby made that adequate notice of this meeting was given by posting written notice prominently on the bulletin board in the office of the Board of Ed, the district's website, and sent to the 4 schools. The mailing and also hand delivery of said notice to the designated newspapers, Asbury Park Press, Star Ledger, PLG, PSG, PSA, PTSO, SAB presidents, and student representatives to the board. Also filed with the clerk of Homedale Township Police Headquarters and Public Library. May we call the roll, please?
Mr. Wall.
Here.
Mr. Damari.
Here.
Mr. Reddy.
Here.
Dr. Kalur is currently absent. Mrs. DeSillo.
Here.
Mr. Buckley.
Here.
Mr. Mann is currently absent. Mr. Lebecci, currently absent. Mrs. LePrest.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, everyone. The meetings of the board are open to the public, and all members of the community should feel very much free to participate. There are 2 opportunities for the public to speak. First is at the beginning of the meeting for items that are on the agenda only, and then there'll be a second opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting for anything else that may be on your mind. Any individual desiring to speak, please give your name, address, or group, if any, that you're representing. The presentation should be as brief as possible, but no more than 3 minutes if you would. There are certain matters that may be brought before the board that can't be immediately addressed in public. They may be referred by the president to a board or subcommittee or superintendent for other consideration or resolution. And the board vests in the president or other presiding officer authority to terminate any remarks if it's in the best interest of those present to do so, which we do not anticipate. Could we kindly stand with the new educators in Homedale District, please lead us off in the flag salute. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And I understand that recently you had a whirlwind tour, right? And Ms. Krupe, I just saw again coming in, saw you at Bell Works. That was great. I'd like to turn it over now to Dr. J. Scott Cascone for the welcome of new staff members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. And thank you to the new staff members who are in attendance tonight. I'm assuming that what's happened is Mr. Howard has been putting you through such rigorous paces over the course of the last 2-day orientation that the others couldn't lift themselves off the bed to come here. But that makes you the 3 most resilient of the bunch. So,
which includes an extra stipend, which I guess the other folks
right,
weren't aware of.
That's right. We didn't advise them of that.
Too bad.
But
Well,
lucky. We were thrilled. We've been thrilled to host our new team members this week. Special thanks to Mr. Howard, Mrs. Lamoglia, and others who have been integral in delivering that program. I just want to introduce those staff members who are in attendance this evening. And then I'll read off the names of the other staff members who were not able to be here tonight. First from Village School, part-time physical education teacher, Kevin Lawler. Kevin, welcome. Kevin, this is typically where we ask the new candidates to come to the microphone and deliver a statement of philosophy of education. Art mentioned that to you, correct? He didn't? Oh, well, there's the mic. I'm kidding. You don't have to do that. From Indian Hill School, we have Lauren Krupe. Lauren's going to be teaching grades 4 and 5. As a TLR, and we were very thankful. TLRs are becoming increasingly difficult to find these days. So anytime we're able to find a capable and outstanding educator to fill those positions, we are genuinely thankful for that. So much appreciated. And we have in the middle, we have high school special education, also a TLR, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan, I might add, has gotten high marks and full points for wearing a tie to orientation every day. I told him that he's cut out of the same cloth as the superintendent. I was always in a tie as a teacher, so well played. At this time, I'm just going to acknowledge by name the other new staff members who will be joining us this year. So Alexandra Demarest, this Village School, Alexandra Demarest, preschool special education teacher. Jillian Hunt, 2nd grade teacher. Daniela Leonardi, enterprise child care aide. Alexis Reiter, a speech language pathologist. Joanne Ryder is our new school nurse at Village School. Megan Terrell is teaching Spanish part-time. And Madison Yoon is a TLR special education teacher from Village School. Round of applause for our Village School teachers. At Indian Hill School, in addition to Mrs. Kruppe, we have Ahud Alken, who's a lunchroom and playground aide, and Jacqueline Matias, who is an occupational therapist at both Indian Hill and the complex. Round of applause for Indian Hill. At William R. Satz, of course, we have our new assistant principal, Dr. Ellen Giannakis, who will also be supervising world languages grades 7 through 12. Dr. Giannakis joined us earlier in the summer and has made a terrific transition into our team and demonstrated great value already. So we're super excited to have her on board. And we have a TLR in social studies, Ryan Brady from William R. Satz School. And I believe Ryan Brady is actually a product of the Homedale school system, as a sidebar. And Ms. Kruppe as well, correct. That's right. We actually, that is actually fairly common in our school district, which I think says a lot about our community and our school district, that we have so many folks that come back and return to the community where they grew up and were educated. So welcome back. You're really right. Well, I would argue if you could make it in Homedale, you can make it anywhere, but that's just that.
He meant that towards us.
No.
He's making fun of us.
And at the high school, of course, starting on September 3rd, though, he's been joining us for some transition exercises, including meeting with the freshmen today during the orientation, Dr. Michael John Harritz, who's our new high school principal, Antonio Caceres, who's our Spanish teacher, Michelle Gallo is a lunchroom aide, Sarah Grauso, math teacher, Nicholas Giraffa has joined us as a night custodian, Sarah Magno is joining us as a TLR math teacher, Patricia Rabbit is our new graphics arts teacher. We have a TLR as the secretary to the principal, Marjorie Savage, and as already noted, Ryan Van Duyn, our special education teacher, TLR. So did I pronounce that right? Dine. Dutch? Sorry about that. Homedale High School. So once again, it's become an increasingly competitive job market out there for teachers. I said to the teachers in the new teacher orientation, amongst other things, thank you for choosing us, right? As much as we're choosing you, you've chosen to bring your talents and professional skills here to work with our children, and we are appreciative of that and appreciative of the work you're going to do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Certainly want to thank the union leadership for being here to keep an eye on us. I mean, to share that collaborative lens of education and advancement. We always appreciate you being here. So, all right, we're going to move right along. So I have to get one of those synonym books whenever I do something different here. The report of the superintendent, Dr. Cascone. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Welcome aboard, everybody. All right.
Okie doke. Just get my report up here. Okay. So here we go. We're about to, we're in the week before our opening of school. It has been already a very event-filled and activity-filled week. As we already mentioned, we've had our new teacher orientation program ongoing. We're also conducting open houses at our elementary schools, our incoming student and new student orientations. We had our freshman orientation today. I was very happy to have had the opportunity to address our freshmen as they begin this exciting new chapter. Next week, we'll do something that never ceases to amaze me. After 25 years, 20 of those in leadership, is we go from 0 to 60 in an hour, basically. We go from our buildings being really just, broken down with furniture everywhere and construction projects ongoing and wire being pulled, to our buildings filled with nearly 3,000 students and 500 staff members. I never cease to be amazed with the smoothness with which that happens, but it doesn't happen by happenstance. Our summers are extremely busy. Over the course of my time in the profession, I've seen summers become increasingly busy. And so I just want to give a few, issue a few thoughts, words of thanks to a number of different folks. First and foremost, to our amazing buildings and grounds maintenance staffs. The work that they accomplish over the summer is incredible. If you've had obviously you drove into Homedale High School. I was thinking to myself as I drove in again today and looking at the grounds, not to mention the buildings, what an incredible job they've done. So I just wanted to publicly thank the amazing men and women of our buildings and grounds department and leadership of that department, Mr. Stromsel, Mr. Rogers, and of course the business office who oversees that aspect of the operations. Tremendous job. Our buildings are ready to go, and we're excited to open them to our students and staff. I would be remiss if I also did not thank all of our support staff, all of our administrative assistants that work in the buildings, in the central office, the various departments. They are also in here all summer, working hand in hand with the administration, getting things organized. And so I want to also publicly thank all of our support staff and our administrative assistants. One of which we have here tonight, Mrs. Sorrow. So we can thank you personally for a job well done and their partnership and collaboration with leadership to get us ready to go. As I had previously mentioned, we had two very successful summer programs this summer, both the Summer Step Up program and the Extended School Year program. Both were well attended. I want to again thank our staff. It could be totally understandable as teachers if you wanted to disconnect over the summer and put your toes in the sand. But I've always had a tremendous amount of respect and always will for teachers who sort of re-up and get back in the saddle and get right after it. Those are true love for the work and the kids they work with. So thank you to all those staff members who were a part of those programs. And of course, our students for sacrificing a good portion of their summer to come in and get better academically. And to the parents who brought them and who acknowledged and who are committed to supporting their students in their ongoing academic growth. To our athletic teams and our coaching staffs and our players, they also have been extremely hard at work all summer, and it's been a brutal summer to be out there with this heat. They've started their camps, they've started scrimmages, and I sent a correspondence to our head coaches this week, just really thanking them. For really what is more than anything a labor of love. I mean, the hours that those folks put in and the dedication they show is truly amazing. And I'm excited that we're opening our fall season, Mr. Buckley. We got a VIP pass for you. Friday Night Lights, home against Long Branch, 6 o'clock. Actually, there's VIP passes for all of you if you want them, but I know Mr. Okay.
Is this Friday?
This is Friday. Friday, 6 o'clock. Coach Kavanaugh, our new coach, and his staff will be kicking off the season. Had a chance to visit the practice today and talk to the boys and the coaches, and they are super charged up to get out there.
And my nephew, who's with the senior student rep, is one of the captains this year of the football team.
I
So
saw-
that's why I'll be there, because it's the home opener and my nephew, it's my nephew.
I saw him. I said, I think you grew, and you've definitely been in the weight room. He's looking fit.
I've been
Starting to
invited
defend.
tomorrow night to impart some words of wisdom to the team. A bunch of alumni are coming back, so
Nice.
excited to meet the team. It's had a great season last year.
And it's the new coach,
Exactly.
so we're going to support.
And it's
Got some thoughts. I've got some thoughts, but
you're gonna win one for the Gipper. Is that going to be in that vein,
that
or?
one's already been done. I'm gonna
Okay.
win one for Damari.
So, and I would be remiss if I did not also mention, I put it up on social media last night. Really excited for our pep band. We've had a pep band for some time now, but we've infused a lot of new resources into that program. We're going to have a much larger complement in our pep band. I want to thank Officer Dave Buckle, who's our pep band director, as well as the parents who have formed the pep band parent organization. They have been incredible, so enthusiastic and supportive of the kids. And I think it's really going to enhance the atmosphere, at our football games. They will be performing not only at home games, but they will also be traveling with the team to their away games. Tonight on the board's agenda, just to pivot a bit to sort of initiatives and key informational items on the agenda tonight for the board's approval are our draft goals for this year. Just kind of high level points of emphasis for our goals are obviously continuing this year, working on year 2 goals within our strategic action plan. We're going to be continuing our PBSIS work under the leadership of Mr. Howard in training our district staff on the character education curriculum. Obviously, we're going to continue to focus on student achievement in mathematics and English language arts in decreasing by 10% the students who are scoring in the partially proficient area. And fourth is we're really going to be taking a look at how, as both leadership and faculty, how are we providing students with timely, constructive, and meaningful feedback on the work they do, whether that's formative day-to-day in the classroom or whether that's on summative assessments like quizzes and tests. In our data triangle survey, which was administered, this is part of our strategic plan evaluation process. We administered it at the onset when we were doing the plan. We're administering it on an annual basis. And I will say that we've seen a lot of positive growth in those indicators. We've moved a number of items into the strength category. We've moved a number of items from the risk category into the progressing category. But one area where we saw sort of a status quo, if you will, was in this area of feedback. So we're going to be drilling down on that a bit more and working on our teachers with our teachers on that. And I should say, because as leadership, we also set goals looking at that data for ourselves. And two things that emerged from that data from the student voice perspective were visibility of leaders in the schools and the classrooms. So we're making that a point of emphasis to be more, as leadership, being more present, more visible with our students. And secondly is there is a perception amongst our students that a lot of students don't follow the school rules. Now, whether that's perception or reality, if a majority of our students are giving us that feedback through this survey, and obviously it's only one data set, that's obviously something we as a leadership team need to take a closer look at and move that needle. So those are some highlights of our district goals. Couple other points of emphasis that I wanted to mention in terms of focal points for this year. Cell phones. The premise of cell phone bans has been gaining more traction both locally and also nationally. We've seen, in Virginia as an example, Governor Youngkin imposing an executive order banning cell phones in schools. I think the board had a really open and candid conversation about that last month. And while the board and the administration have stopped short of imposing a total ban, we obviously have what really amounts to a ban in K-8. But really, we're going to focus this year on being as consistent as possible as we can in enforcement. The principals have revised codes of conduct to put more stringent consequences in place for cell phone violations, and we're taking more of a middle way this year, as opposed to jumping right into a ban. We're taking a bit of a moderate path, more moderate path. We did, I think, experience some positive progress and gains last year versus the previous year in terms of student compliance. And that's how we plan to approach it this year as well. That being said, we as a school and administration staff will do everything we can, but it's really important that obviously our students are on board with us, but also our parents, right? Our parents have to be partners. We're asking, I should say, I don't want to be presumptuous. We're asking our parents to be partners with us, and that's, in terms of texting your kids during school and just emphasizing the importance of that. And yes, is it a distraction to learning? It is. But more importantly, as we've seen in tragic occurrences, it is very much a case of student mental health and safety, right? We work very hard in our schools to supervise our students and to ensure they're safe. But when they have that phone in their hand and we can't monitor what's going on, it really inhibits our ability to make sure that they're safe while they're in our schools. Artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence has really sort of taken our world. It's taken every industry, including education, by storm. It seemed like, even though it had been in the works for quite some time, it seemed like all of a sudden ChatGPT was here last year and it was just expanding exponentially, and it is. The board and the administration had the foresight to pass a policy, and President Wall, I do believe it was the first of its kind in New Jersey public schools.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's great that it's started here.
Correct. But anytime, obviously, you put a policy in place mid-year, it's always better, to start fresh at the beginning of the year where we can really onboard our staff and onboard our students relative to the expectations. We spent time this summer as administrative team reviewing our artificial intelligence policy. Dr. Giannakis and Mrs. Colleen, who have both engaged in fairly extensive professional learning with artificial intelligence, presented to our administrative team a terrific slide deck presentation during our administrative retreat, which will then in turn be turnkeyed. The expectations, I communicated with our staff that it's important to review the policy. And I think it's really, honestly, I think a really good rule of thumb is because the policy requires us to disclose if it's used, I think that becomes a really good litmus test of whether you want to use it, right? Is this a usage of the technology that you feel comfortable disclosing? If you disclose to people like, oh, that's cool, like they used it, it was more efficient that way. Or is it going to be like, whoa, like they wrote it with AI? Like, so that to me is a really simple litmus test. And listen, we're all learning. We've all in some ways erred with it. And as I said to the staff in my email, it really is about transparency and openness and learning, right? We're not going to learn and get better at it by being sort of closed mouth about it. And I think really important, from a teacher perspective is grading, right? And that's not to say that AI might not have applications when it comes to grading, but certainly if we're talking about completely substituting the human element in the grading process, that's obviously something that I think we all need to be very concerned about. Just as we would be concerned if a student, presented a paper or a piece of work that was done exclusively with ChatGPT. The standard applies reciprocally, but in whole, we authorize its usage, and we look forward to continuing to learn about it and with it. And last but not least, I'd like to talk a little bit about this year and the fact that it is a historic opening, I would argue, for our schools as we transition to new start times and end times for our schools. Most notably at the high school with combined start times for the middle school and the high school, and with the later start time really for the first time in a while for our high school students. I'm certain that there's a fair degree of trepidation out there amongst our community members, staff, parents, students. I'm sure they're having, maybe you're having nightmares about what that's going to look like on day one. I'm not, by the way, Vice President Damari, because I'm confident in the work that we've done over the summer. We've been working. First of all, I want to compliment Mr. McCauley. Mr. McCauley has been terrific in developing a draft plan and then meeting multiple occasions over the course of the summer with Chief Alaco. I want to thank Chief Alaco. Lieutenant Officer Minoski, a number of members of that department who have partnered with us, and thankful to them for agreeing and offering to really dedicate their resources to ensuring that goes well, namely to have officers present for the direction of traffic at the entrances to both the middle school and the high school. But we're going to need everybody's support, right? We've worked really hard to come up with a plan. We're going to have a lot of human resources on site early and often to do everything we can to facilitate that. But we're really going to need our community members to join with us and partner with us to make sure that this goes as well as possible. Like there always is at the beginning of the year, there's going to be bumps in the road, no pun intended. But I think what we found in previous years is those work themselves out, right? As we get educated and trained. And just as a final plug before I close the report, I think this is a good reason to have kids start riding the bus. Right. I got it a little. I guess we all sort of understood when your kid was getting on a bus stop at getting up at 5:45 or 5:30, you're getting on a bus stop at 6 o'clock, it was dark out. We understood, like, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that your child gets to school and gets to school on time. Believe me, I'm a father of 3 daughters, all of whom went to Middletown South, which is still starting at 7:15 or 7:20. So I get it. But this is a great opportunity to increase our ridership. And by doing that, we can really reduce the amount of traffic that's coming into campus. But we are really excited for next week. We're welcoming our teachers back on September 3rd. We have a really good day planned. Thank you to the HTEA, and thank you to our parents, our school parent organizations who have funded our welcome back breakfast for our staff. Looking forward to joining for some food and fellowship with our staff and having a terrific opening. We are prepared and we are super excited. So we hope the same for our community, and we look forward to an amazing year. And that, Mr. Wall, is my report.
Thank you very much. We're going to open it up to any board questions in a second. I do also want to thank the staff and the parents in the community regarding the revision to the school start and the board. This is a very long time in coming, but it's wonderful that it's starting. what I'd be interested to see as we move along, each year, transportation is always an issue in the beginning of the year, regardless of the year. I do think that most of the schools in Monmouth County, when the parents are going to start wondering, why is my kid at school at 7:20 when home does there at 8 o'clock? But that's not our problem. That's their problem. Also, we did pick up, it wasn't the reason, but we did pick up about $600,000 in taxpayer money by reconfiguring the transportation. Not the reason, but it's always great to put money back in the taxpayer's pocket. But the other piece, and what this is really all about, and we'll see if science matters, it's better moods, better grades, better dynamic in the district. I'm very interested to know how many students are late to first period or no show. It'd be interesting to hear from the educators. Are the kids awake? Right? Are they coming in late? Are they disrupting 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, continually disrupting the class because they just can't get there? And people can argue what the reasons are. But the biology appears to indicate, even just as a layperson reading the literature, that we're towards the right side of the time. The state has been, Board Member DeSilla may know more about this than the union folks, dilly-dallying with the issue legislatively, thinking about changing it, and they're eventually going to change it because more schools are going to do it. Then they're going to wonder why we're not waiting for the state, because you might as well, wait another decade. So we're already set, and that's what's nice about it. So there may be some tweaks, but we're already set. But what I was getting at, I'd like to know how the data ends up being, how many children are now no longer late, how many children are more attentive, more engaged, quality of life for also the staff. That I think that'll tell the tale. I think it'll be, fantastic. Wouldn't mind seeing how the dress code looks, right? Am I wrong? Just many folks, they just get out of bed, dive in a car, dive in a bus. There was a time when people dressed up for school. It happened. It was amazing. They'd actually wear pajamas. It was this thing called clothing, right?
It's true.
But so I don't know what happened there, but that would be fantastic. Would be interested to see how the fashion goes. I just think it's going to be better quality of life all across the board. And, we'll look back and see, was it the right decision or not? I think it'll be proven the case. I did want a couple quick things. Character Strong curriculum. Is that the characterstrong.com website? I just want to make sure that there's a reference point for its parents or board members or any of the folks that are listening to do a deeper dive on that district goal item 1.
It is. Is Mr. Howard here?
He left it.
Okay.
He left after that question.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
That is the same. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. And the last question that I had, want to open up to any board members that have questions for Dr. Cascone. When it talks about minimum 5%, we were talking about the senior surveys. Basically, we grade them for 12 years. We want them to grade us. And I think Board Member Reddy was talking about maybe freshman year, maybe sophomore year. You want feedback. And it also, frankly, drives better results if you know you're getting a grade too. I think that's in almost any industry. But it talks about increasing it 5%. Does that mean 5 points or 5%? For example, if it's showing 48%, like less than half think something's good and it's in the red or the yellow, when we're trying to get from red to yellow or yellow to green, does it mean 5 points or 5%? Because that's a huge
5%.
difference. Because 5% is not much. Is the reason. I'm
Five-
just saying 5%, like if
yeah.
you're at 45%, 5% of 45% is a lot lower than 5 points, meaning get to 50%.
I see what you're saying. I misspoke. It's actually 5 points. So we'd be moving from, if it's 48, we'd move into 53.
Okay, so, all right, so it's 5 point. I just want to make sure that, all right, so it's math, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's all I had on that. So it's 5 points. Any other board members have any questions on the superintendent's report? Thank you.
Yes, thank you to everybody involved that put in the work this summer for our students and for preparing us for these modified start times. Terrence was mentioning this when I first got on the board and didn't know much about some of the changes that would happen for students or the benefits. And then at the Atlantic City conference, the NJSBA, they had a seminar on pushing the start times back with some superintendents who recently had done it. And I appreciated that because it provided a lot of insight on why I also do believe and support this push it will be a benefit for our students. And there'll be some bumps in the road with the change of the getting the kids to and from school, but I'm confident that thank you to the police department and all the administrators, teachers, staff that are going to help, and we're going to get this right. So I'm happy that that we are moving with that. And I do see that happening more and more with school districts with pushing these start times back. Dr. Cascone, I fully support as much of less cell phones, the better, basically. So I fully support that. And I look forward to continuing to enforce that. And I appreciate I know it's probably tough for the teachers and it's tough for parents, right, to get children off the devices, but I'm fully support that the less the kids are on the phone, the better it's going to be for them and everybody involved. They're certainly going to learn a lot more. I'm proud that the Homedale Township School District was a trailblazer with its AI policy. It's not something that we can sit on. I mean, AI is way ahead of all of us. So it helps us as a district get a conversation going, get some guidelines going that we can continue to analyze and see what's working and not working, because this is changing every day. So I'm proud that we got that out there. And I have known a number of districts that have been kind of asking us what ours looks like. It's got to be spoken about within schools. My one question is on the summer step up. So that's been a successful 2 or 3 years, and thank you for everybody for doing that. I had heard that 100 students took it this year,
Over 100.
which is incredible.
Yep.
And then possibly we might lose the funding on it. Is that right? It's like, this is a conversation we have to start having to see how we can. Yeah. So is it something that we can talk about to potentially
Yeah, so we,
provide it?
yes, Vice President. So I can confirm that the funding source that we've used for that program for the last several years is actually due to be, it's legally required to be spent by the end of this month. And we will have spent every penny. We've been discussing, I mean, certainly it's something we consider in the development of the budget. But obviously there might be some challenges with that, but certainly something we can discuss.
Maybe even charging the
Well,
parents.
that's what I'm saying. We are talking about it.
Just to make it available, like no
We have talked
different than
about
the
it.
AI camp,
Yep,
right?
we've
Here
talked
it
about
is, here's an
tuition-based.
offering.
Yep. That's
So-
that. When I spoke with Mrs. Rubel, who's been overseeing it, we were discussing the idea of a tuition-based.
And how
program.
many students from last year to this year? Significant increase
But
or?
it was approximately the same
Yeah,
amount. same
so
number.
100 students is significant to hopefully be able to extend that for them. So
Yep.
let's keep talking about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Something
Yes,
to say.
Dr.
I
Clark.
think the early start time is a very good idea, very good thing we're trying out. And I must give credit to Board Member Wall for actually pushing for it right from the beginning. Yeah. And even cell phone restrictions, I think, are a great idea. In fact, I was for stricter restrictions, but we take in a moderate way. But I do want to make sure we give enough support to our teachers and administrators in terms of, them kind of enforcing this policy, and maybe bring it up like every month or two to see how that's being done. Thanks.
Board Member
Um,
Gisela.
Just wanted to say that every time that you mentioned the earlier or the late pushing back the start time, I mentioned getting the complex on one schedule. And so that team up is finally happening. Happy that it's happening. My high school daughter was happy to get her bus schedule today and see her time. She's like gaining 45 minutes in the morning. She's super excited about that. I would like you to talk to the community a little bit about what's happening with SATs, because this new lunch period and how it's going is brand new and and I think it's going to be super beneficial. So if you just want to mention that so everyone can understand.
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Gisela. Great question. Happy to speak to. We're actually really excited about the changes that's bringing in. So having both lunches happening at the same time necessitated that SAT students eat at SATs and high school students eat at the high school. Approximately 100 students, high school students, were eating lunch in the SATs cafeteria last year, in previous years in the SATs cafeteria during the high school lunch, and approximately the same vice versa. So we knew we could fit all of our high school students in the high school space. We did have to order some additional tables, and I want to thank Mr. Patris in the business office and Mr. Stromsland for sort of getting a great price point on that and expediting that delivery so that they were here in time for the school year. It's a good example, not to digress, but I think it's worth mentioning. That's a good example of just like one of the things that happens behind the scenes that you don't see, but is so critical to making these plans work. So thank you for that. So we knew they couldn't, we couldn't fit all the SATS students at once. So I want to compliment Mrs. Simonelli and the SATS team because they really drilled down on that and figured out how to make it work. So the SATS lunch period will be split into two halves of approximately 25 minutes. Students will have 25 minutes to eat. They'll have an A and B lunch, right? So half the kids will eat during A, half the kids will eat during B. And when they're not eating, they'll have several opportunities. They will either go to recess, which is awesome, by the way. I hate to get excited about it, but I think our middle school kids are going to be so excited to actually get some energy out. So that is really a great enhancement, an age-appropriate enhancement for that age group. Or they can go to extra help, or they can go and attend one of their club and activity meetings. So I think it was an enhancement that was born out of problem solving, and I think it's really going to be a great thing for the middle school kids. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other comments for Dr.
I got
Pascal?
some comments, Terrence.
Sure.
Thank you for that, Scott. I think the recess is a cool thing. Obviously, it's, I wasn't even thinking about that, but Kim, thanks for bringing it up because I seen some I guess some Facebook postings of people like, oh, what time is my kid eating and all that stuff. So be good for them to get outside. From the cell phones, I'm glad we're not taking a hard line approach at this point in time. We don't need to be Los Angeles. We don't need to be New York City. We don't need to be Virginia. We can police this ourselves. And I think especially the older children have, they've earned the credibility and the, respect that we give them the opportunity to fail, and they haven't yet, and they've done pretty well. So glad about that. Terrence, the start times goes back to 2018. So there was a legislation that's still out there called SR 417. It was 5 or 6 districts throughout the state. There was going to be a pilot program, and that's still there. So yeah, we would be waiting the better part of this decade before they take effect. So I'm glad we did it. Obviously, pandemic, referendum, and other things slowed it down. But I mean, I know it goes back to early on when, years back that hey, this makes sense. So happy to see it. Congratulations and thank you to the administration for getting that done because this is not simple. And the other thing, pep band. So for years up here, there was a lot of dialogue, you could call it, about pep band and not being part of dance and kick line and everything else. So it's really cool to see the pep band actually happening. I didn't even know it was happening until I saw some photos of folks on the field and things like that. So I'm not sure the last time we had a pep band in this district, but it's cool to see that happening. So look forward to see that, I guess, on Friday. Thanks.
Thanks. You said SR 417?
SR 417 was the legislation that was enacted in 2018, and they kept doing it 19, 20, and 21, and here we are today, 2024, and
So I
nothing's
think
really
that's
happened.
a Trenton acronym for sit and relax, and then they give you the number of years to wait
Yeah,
before they'll get anything done.
where it's
right?
exactly.
Yes.
So
Sit and relax, 417. Okay, wonderful, great. There's no HIB report because it's amazing what doesn't happen in the summer. Question and comments from the public on action items. So this is the list of items that are on effectively a consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations, C&I, curriculum instruction, special services, business administrator recommendations. We'll take those in one vote, but that's open to the public. If anyone has any questions on the agenda, it's open to the public now. Seeing none, we'll close that piece and then we'll move on to action items. There are a couple that I'd like to ask to be read by board members. The voting will be items 1, starting at approval of minutes all through to 52, which is chapter 192, 193 funding. And then we'll separately vote on 53 and 54. So it's 1 through 52 and also 55 through 57, which is an RFP on audit, and also the approval of the bills is the last item. May we have a motion for those items excluding 53 and 54?
Move.
second,
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about item number 30, which is the Critical Lens Club. It's I think it's a very good thing. I spoke with the superintendent as well about it. This actually hopefully will reduce the bullying and all the anti, certain groups, hatred against certain groups as well, by creating art to try to challenge biases and status quo. And apparently this was actually in place a few years ago as a kind of curriculum, but up until last year, it was taken away as a curriculum. Okay.
Yeah, due to economic reasons,
Right.
we had to cut it as an elective class.
Okay, so
Mr. Howard, Dr. Cooler, if I could ask you just a moment.
Yeah.
Mr. Howard, calling upon your experience going back to the Sats Middle School principal, was that course in place when you were there? What was it called? Do you recall? No. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Did you want to just recap what he said so it's on the record?
So I was just asking Mr. Howard, had been the SATS principal. We're trying to get a sense of how far back this course was in SATS. And my understanding is we have a SATS teacher in the room. Do you have any insight on that? Just a few years? Right. Okay, so a few years it was in place.
Right. So, so it's good that we have that to, address all biases, not just one. And they're using art here, as I think is just use art, but I think maybe we could expand it to other like discussions or listening skills to appreciate differences. So that's something we can either incorporate here or do something else about it. But I think this is a very good start, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the
Got it.
insight. Any other items discussed?
I would just go on that same topic. Is this, is the critical lens SATs and high school or just SATs? Like when I see the change organization, and for everyone who doesn't know, that's the Brookdale College, I guess I don't know what you would call it, but the change program that they have there that I know, Cremoli, who's one of your history teachers, she sort of leads that. Is this a Schedule B that she's doing, or did you not identify who's doing the,
It's a great question. Right. So Marissa Cremoli also teaches the course Standing Up to Intolerance. Now
Right.
all of our eighth graders participate in that course, or at least the vast majority of them do, with maybe a few exceptions due to scheduling. This was more of an elective course, which sort of built on that. And for students who were interested in kind of taking, further study in that area, it's the Standing Up to Intolerance course that does the annual trip to the genocide exhibit at Brookdale Community College. And while, of course, this is just approving the job description, and so there would be a subsequent posting, for the Schedule B advisor for that club. But obviously, Mrs. Cremoli would be a strong candidate for the position, having taught the class and really being an outstanding resource when it comes to Holocaust education and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think these studies are actually as important, maybe I believe now even more important than just math and STEM and arts or sports. It's probably equally important because this is the thread that makes people, kind of accept differences and, just be at peace and be friendly with each other. So I think this is really, as I get older, I feel that these are really very important skills to gain.
Thank you very much. Any other board members have input? Okay, wonderful. So may we have a roll call, please, then?
Mr. Wall,
Yes.
Mr. Damari,
Yes.
Mr. Reddy,
yes, abstain to 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Dr. Kalor,
Yes.
Mrs. Tassilo,
Yes.
Mr. Buckley,
Yes.
Mrs. Lepresti.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. And Board Member Lepresti, would you be kind enough to read item 53, which is approval of monetary donation from Bank of America, item 53.
Sure. Acceptance of monetary donation from Bank of America, that the board accept with gratitude a monetary donation from the Bank of America Charitable Foundation in the amount of $500 for Homedale High School.
Thank you very much. We have a motion?
Move.
Second? Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Wall,
Yes, thank you very much for your generosity.
Mr. Damari,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Reddy,
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Kalor,
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Tassilo,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Buckley,
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Lepresti.
Yes, thanks.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Board Member Tassilo, would you be kind enough to read number 54, it's approval of a non-monetary donation from the Homedale Pep Band parent organization.
Acceptance of non-monetary donation from the Homedale Pet Band Parent Organization. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation from the Homedale Pet Band Parent Organization of a parade banner with pole and carry case at at a cost not to exceed $350 to be used by the pet band for display at all performances and or community events.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
Move.
Second? Discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Wall,
Yes, thank you very much and have a great year.
Mr. Demore,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Reddy,
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Kalura, Mrs. Tasillo,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Buckley,
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. LaPresti.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to old business or open to the floor to the board members. Do you have any items for old business? I have one item. If you're pondering any of your own, is just to update you. That there is no update yet on the 3.5 million, the discretionary aid grant that the Township Committee sent to the state. Hopeful that that grant will be approved so we can kick off the Crawford's Corner Traffic Needs Improvement Program that was designed by the school. And I'm sure it'd be refined in some fashion by the governing body, but we'll make efficient use of those tax dollars. I do think that project will happen. In the meantime, there was some basic milling and paving that's done that you've seen outside, which is good. So we're going to work now, if that project were complete, we wouldn't have a handful of extra questions on the traffic circulation plan. But I think you'll find an increase in bus participation. I feel very confident about that. And the way it's laid out, there are a number of different folks from Homedale Traffic Safety, from the chief and his team, looking at the layout of working with what we have to maximize the traffic flow. So I'm actually optimistic with the human controls outside of the intersections that it will work well. So just by way of update on that project. Are there any other items that board members have?
Just a friendly reminder, please remind these kids to wear the helmets on these bikes. And it really scares me. Just teach them the rules of the road. I'm seeing some crazy things on these bikes. I don't know if you guys are seeing them, but cutting off traffic and flying opposite direction, no helmets on. Anytime you see a kid with with no helmet on, just please be an adult and tell that kid to put a helmet on, please.
I lecture my kids every time I'm in the car. I'm like, if you ever get caught without a helmet.
Put a helmet.
Yeah. Any other items for old business? Just a shout out to the pep band, and this is very old business, but I've long thought it would be fantastic to fund enhancements, to have a marching band. When those marching bands come in and with the pomp and the circumstance from some, right, from the football and other sports, that's certainly an initiative I would support. I think that's classic, a marching band.
What do we need to do? Does that come with the new design of the costume, the Hornet? It's a package.
You leave that wasp alone. Yeah, no, I don't know. Sure. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so we're now going to move on to new business. If any board members have any items under new business, please feel free to share them. I'll share one. I would like to, the board, considering what I had mentioned under old business with the discretionary grant and the likelihood that that project is not forthcoming, in the very short term, maybe a capital project for 2025. I do think, and I know my good friend Denise King will back me up on this one. I'd like to get that drop-off lane by Rogie. And I think that there are fantastic contractors in this town, in this district, this municipality, fantastic contractors that are in this field. Perhaps some folks may know some, and they may hear this. They may want to do that as a in kind, or as a non-monetary, a structural donation, or some other fashion to offset. But whether folks are involved in sports or they're not involved in sports, there's a dangerous intersection with children and vehicles that we can have it painted yellow. We could have new signs that says can't stop. But just from a practical standpoint, and we have a new engineer, we could certainly have him take a look at it. But I think at least on that traffic enhancement, I'd like to see if the board would be interested in looking at a small capital improvement project with a drop-off lane, just like that pulls in a bit, moves that sign over a little bit, and allows parents a safe way for children to get in and out. And for people that are parking, they may be coming for things that have nothing to do with sports, but that intersection where they can pull off. I don't know if anybody.
I support that also, because it is very dangerous. At least what it takes to put a sign out there to try to change kind of the culture in an area of stopping and pulling to a spot, and then your child gets out to go out.
So at least there's no decision needs to be made today, of course. I don't mean it that way, but if the business administrator, if you could take a look at our capital fund and And to the extent that there are members of the community, let me speak to a couple that I know that are in this field, that it's actually a really minor job. They may want to interface and support that, I don't want to call it an amenity, really. It's a safety initiative. So I just want to put that out there.
Terrence, those 7 or 8 projects that made part of that, 7 of them or 6, and whatever the number was off our ground. So obviously financially, they weren't our
Like
football
off
essentially.
campus, right.
Yeah. So this is the one. And I think if I recall, Spaziel sort of carved out every project, what would it would entail, how long, how many people. So I think that one, it's just a matter of saying, okay, hey, let's find out how much that cost budget was,
Yeah.
then we could, because I absolutely agree. I mean, especially for folks that come into this district, they don't know, so they're just, innocently dropping their kid off. And you see it all the time. Like I think I saw it last Wednesday when I was coming up here, kids were dropping off for football or cheering practice, and they just slow down. It definitely creates an issues, and knock on wood, we've never had an accident, but I'd much rather take, some proactive measures before an accident happens, going, oh crap, we should have did that. And we didn't.
Yeah.
And we know about it, it was in our line of sight. So I think I'm hoping it wouldn't be that much. And if someone wants to help us with the, do it for cost, that'd be outstanding.
Well, thank you. If Dr. Cascone, if you could just take that input and Mr. Petruzzo. as
Yeah,
a
I'm just
item.
kind of worried about adding more and more expenses when our budget is tight and we don't want to increase taxes and there's school buses. So I'd be loath to add any other financial expense, unless it's obviously donated by some people. So I'd be hesitant to add more.
Appreciate the input. Anyone else? Okay, great. No? That's a flying pen. Okay, so we're now going to go into questions or comments from the public. Open mic for any items that are on your mind. The mic is yours. Seeing none, I want to thank everyone for being here today. We don't have an executive session. If there are no other items from the board or administrative staff or IT, so you're getting ready to turn us off. It's great, right? It works out perfect that way. We'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn
Move.
and silence us all.
Move.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Have a great week. Thank you, everyone. And have a great first week of school. Thank you.
All right, thank you.